Good morning. It's January 2nd. This is To My Liberal Friends. Political corruption is something that's been around since people were either elected or put in charge of ruling other people. The power goes to their heads, and they think they're bulletproof and can do whatever they want. It is how those that can hold them accountable react that is the most important part of this equation. I want to look at two recent cases and how they've been handled. First, we have former Congressman George Santos. His mistakes or crimes were many. His biography was made up, and he claimed to have done so many things that he had put most other politicians who embellish their resumes to shame. What is questionable is that this guy ran for Congress in 2020 and lost. You would have thought the media or his opponent would have done some background digging on him. And according to his resume, he did the following. He graduated from Baruch College. This is important because he's also claiming that he has a Jewish heritage background. And after being elected, he made the claim that, quote, now there will be 3 Jewish Republican members in Congress. He claims to be employed in the financial world as associate asset manager at both Citigroup and later Goldman Sachs. Based on that employment, he files a personal financial disclosure report that says his assets are as much as $11 million. That was a massive jump from what he reported 2 years earlier when he ran and lost. Another point in this race was that it was the first time that 2 openly gay men, both he and Congressman Tom Suozzi, went head-to-head in a congressional race. Mr. Santos, like a lot of politicians, tried to gain some empathy or sympathy by saying he lost 4 employees at the Pulse Club shooting in Orlando, Florida in 2016. Of course, that could not be verified and was probably false. Mr. Santos, in embellishing his Jewish credentials, his website claimed, quote, George's grandparents fled Jewish persecution in Ukraine, settled in Belgium, and again fled persecution during World War II, end quote. All of this was false. Mr. Santos failed to explain reports that Brazilian law enforcement authorities intend to revive fraud charges against him. Santos, and this would be in connection with an incident in 2008 relating to a stolen checkbook. Santos was also accused of taking thousands of dollars from a GoFundMe page for his dog to have life-saving surgery. Well, this list could go on because George Santos was living in a fantasy world and would say or do anything to allow himself to be elected to Congress and then to stay in Congress. But in the end, all of these fabrications would be his downfall, and no matter how many times he tried to either explain them or apologize for them, he was ultimately expelled from the House of Representatives. The Republican majority did this knowing that they have a razor-thin majority, and losing a seat until the special election is done will make it more difficult to pass legislation. But they did the right thing. This has put the Democrats in a box because of charges against Senator Robert Menendez, the Democratic senator from New Jersey. His charges are actually more serious than those against Mr. Santos because they involve actions taken by him on behalf of a foreign government while as a sitting U.S. senator and chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The evidence against Menendez, and we should remember this is not the first time he's been accused of unethical behavior while in the Senate, is pretty compelling. The indictment, filed by a federal grand jury in Manhattan, alleged that, quote, he provided sensitive U.S. government information and took other steps that secretly aided the government of Egypt, end quote. In the indictment, federal prosecutors alleged that Menendez's wife and Hannah worked to introduce Egyptian intelligence military officials to Menendez for the purpose of establishing and solidifying a corrupt agreement. The new charge alleged that from 2000 to 22, while Hannah, Senator Menendez, and his wife Nadine, quote, conspired, confederated, and agreed together with each other to have a public official, Menendez, act as an agent of a foreign principal to wit, the government of Egypt and Egyptian officials, end quote. So law enforcement went into the Menendez home and found gold bars that directly link him to one of the co-defendants, Fred Davies, who reported that he was robbed in 2013 and the gold bars in question taken. So it sort of begs the question of how they ended up in Senator Menendez's home. Tough to explain that one. And this creates a problem for Democrats. They should expel Menendez, but that would mean they would be only 50 Democrats in the Senate, and once again, Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kristen Sinema would be the key votes. Some Democrats are saying that Menendez should be given due process until convicted he can remain in the Senate. Many of those same Democrats are the same ones saying Trump should not be allowed to run, even though he's not been convicted. What Santos did was fraudulently represent who he was, but he never acted as an agent for a foreign country. Both he and Menendez sought to enrich themselves to an elected position, but I think aiding another country is worse. Time for the public to demand that Democrats do the right thing and oust Menendez. We'll see if they have the fortitude to do it. I'm not going to hold my breath. It's been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.